What's going on, gamers? Today we're going to be jumping back into some Diablo 4, and what we're going to be covering is all of the best XP farming spots that you can hit up in order to grab yourself a massive amount of XP and level up pretty fast. So if that interests you, stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at the best XP farms currently in the game. Blizzard have decided to nerf an absolute abundance, so I'm going to be bringing you some ones that are really good for early, mid and also endgame. Now I know this is called top 3, but for the early I'm going to be giving you 2 just in case one of them you can't manage to do. The first one is going to be just over here from Shed, and this one's going to involve you running the dungeon Amicus Claim. This one is a very straightforward dungeon, but you do have to complete a stronghold in this vicinity before you can actually unlock it. This one I'd say is a perfect early game one. Round about level 20 or 25 you shouldn't have too many issues getting here, and it has quite a nice mob density, 5 or 6 elites in a very short space, as well as being not too challenging, so great for early game if you're not geared up. You're literally going to run straight forward, group up your enemies, try and move from one elite to the next, take them down as quickly as you can, and you're going to earn yourself some really nice XP. There's around about 5 or 6 elites in this dungeon, give or take, and the enemies themselves aren't too difficult, so you don't get stun locked or get anything too irritating on your way. If you see any shrines, make sure you pick them up, as that's going to allow you to clear much faster. If there's any cursed chests, grab them, you'll get a nice little spawn and some extra XP from farming the enemies. Clear them as fast as you can, make your way all the way around to the start, and then you're going to want to just jump out of the dungeon and then jump straight back in, making your way into the dungeon once more. The shape of the dungeon is this, very simple, nice and easy to do the rotation, and like I said, great for early game. If however you aren't able to do the stronghold and you're still looking for a nice bit of farming XP, then just up here is an amazing one that is even simpler, and that's going to be the Forsaken Quarry. This one is probably the easiest one in the game. You're going to walk almost completely straight forward, take out a few enemies, take out any elites that you see, group everything up as much as possible, and mow down the enemies as you go. This one is a 3-part dungeon, but what you probably want to do in order to get the most XP and to make it simpler for yourself is make it all the way to the very first door that you're supposed to unlock once you've completed all of the enemies, and instead of going through it making your way along, because there is quite a space between enemies when you're doing it this way, I found what's best, clear as many enemies out in this area as you possibly can, just do the same again, exit the dungeon and rinse and repeat to your heart's desire. This one works amazing for very early on, as it's really simple to do and also offers quite a nice bit of XP. Now making our way over to the town of Giranda over in Kyrgyzstan. This one will almost definitely be one you already know about, especially if you've already been farming, but we're going to be making our way just over to the right into the dungeon, the Champion's Demise. This used to be the best, it was what everyone was farming in order to get to level 100, its mob density was amazing, you could clear, you could get loads of XP, but now as with pretty much all of the dungeons, it's been adjusted so that the mob density isn't as good as it once was. However, it is still very good and compares to pretty much all the other dungeons. This is a great mid-game one to do, and I'd say for group play, it's very possibly still the best one in the game. The reason for that, there's 3 separate paths that you're going to be taking in order to pick up the stone tablets, bring them back to the main place, put them in, and then you'll be able to progress on to the boss. If you're playing in a group, you'll be able to send people off in one direction each, and you're going to be completing this in a very timely fashion, making this, in my opinion, still probably the best for group play. You will need to watch out, this one does have a bit more stun effect going on. Obviously there's spiders, there's goatmen, you will need to have some form of unstoppable, but as long as you can mow the enemies down in a nice fashion and you've got a bit of damage about yourself, then this is a great area to take on. Once that's done, you're going to enter all of the stones into the middle, then you're going to have another little spawn appear as well as 2 elites. Take those out and then you're going to make your way straight forward and you're going to be taking on the boss room. This one has a very simple boss, hasn't got too much health, doesn't really do anything out of the ordinary in order to take you down, so you should be able to clear him ridiculously fast. Obviously with this the dungeon will now be completed, so you don't need to worry about the old logging out, logging back in trick. Instead, you're just going to go outside the dungeon, sell off any gear that you've got, make yourself some money, or of course make yourself some resources, and then just jump back through your portal, go back into Champion's Demise and rinse and repeat to your heart's desire. So for Endgame, we're making it all the way to Zabenzee over in Hawazar. Apologies if I butcher any of these names. And then you're going to make your way over to the Blind Burrows. This dungeon is a great one to do. It's got really nice mob density, it's got enemies that spawn at other smaller adds, namely in those spiders. One thing I would say, grab yourself some poison protection if you can, as if you've got absolutely none, they do tend to hit quite hard. But other than that, there's not much stun locking going on. It's a really good dungeon for clearing. I actually prefer these because you don't have to do the log in, log out trick, and you can complete it by completing a boss. You're going to make your way to each of the infected. There's going to be 3 in total. Try to take out all of the adds as you go, take out the infected, and then move on to the next one. Once you've completed all 3 of those, you're going to be able to make your way all the way up. Remember, pretty much clearing everything as you can because you're here for XP. Grab the loot as you go because you'll want to be selling that off as well, and then you're going to make it to the boss room. Take out the boss, hopefully get yourself a nice reward. You'll also have made some nice XP from this dungeon. In my opinion, it's probably the best currently in the game. Then you're just going to bop outside again, travel back, sell off what you need to, make yourself some nice money, and then head back into the dungeon again. This one overall is definitely my top pick. It's nice to run, it doesn't feel quite as boring as some of the others because you are completing the boss, you don't have to keep logging in, logging out. You're able to net yourself some really nice XP as well as some nice money, and quite often I found that there were shrines as well as those curse chests and events within it. So overall it's definitely my top pick, but all of these are still well worth knowing. Hopefully these will be the top 3 for quite some time, as they all seem like they're in pretty much the right place. Blizzard have adjusted loads and loads for XP and mob density, so fingers crossed this list will be the defining one. But as always, let me know in the comments if you think there's anything I've missed off. I'd love to hear from you. As always, take care. I'll see you on the next day.